share this live with your friends, and it should help them, okay? So question number 1, we need to write 500 as a product of powers of its prime factors. So whenever we have this type of question, you know that you have to draw your prime factor tree. Your prime factor tree. You guys should know this. You're learning this like since year 9, okay, or year 10. So we have 500 over here. We need to find two numbers that multiply together to give us 500. So the two numbers we can get, I'm going to get 2 and 250. So 2 and 250 multiply together to give us 500. Okay? 2 and 250 multiply together to give us 500. We know that 2 is a prime number. We are going to circle that. Okay? 2 is a prime number. We're going to circle that. We cannot continue our tree from that root. Now we're going to break down 250. Can someone tell me in the chat two numbers that multiply together to give us 250? What are two numbers that multiply together to give us 250? It can be any number. I'm going to use your numbers because you can give us any number. So I'm going to do 25 and 10. I'm going to do 25 and 10 from Z. Whichever number you do, you're still going to get the same answer if you do this correct method. So I'm going to do 25 and 10. You can continue both of them because since both of them are not prime numbers, we can still continue them. So I can continue this to 5 and 2. Break that down. Since these two are prime numbers, we're going to circle these two. 5 and 2 are prime numbers. And then we have 25. And I'm going to break this down into 5 and 5. 5 times 5 is 25. So then so the 500 times the product of its prime factors is 2 times 2 times 5 times 5 times 5. And then we can simplify this to 2 squared times 5 cubed, as there are 2 sets of 2's and 5 3's. And that was a 3-mark question at the first. That's the first question on the higher paper. First question on the higher paper worth 3 marks. Worth 3 marks. So let's move on to our next question. So you have question number 2a. So this is the fractions question now. So you have to work out 1 whole and 3/5 plus 2 wholes and a quarter. So the way you would do this, first of all, convert both of them into improper fractions or top-heavy fraction. So we have 1 whole and 3/5 as a mixed number. I'm going to convert it as an improper fraction. That's going to be 8/5. So the way you would do this is going to do 1 times 5, which is 5. Add it to the numerator. It's going to be 8/5. And then we have 2 wholes and a quarter. That will be 9 quarters. Convert it into a mixed number. An improper fraction or a top-heavy fraction. So now we have that. Now we can add them together. So we have 8/5 plus 9/4. But as you can see, we need to find a common denominator so that we can add them together. You have to find the common denominator. So the lowest common multiple, I think we should use 20. You're going to change both of them to 20. So 20 and then plus 20. So we have to multiply the first fraction by 4 on both the denominator and the numerator. So 5 times 4 gives us 20. And 8 times 4 is going to be 32 as the numerator for the first fraction. And for the second fraction, I have to times by 5 to the denominator to get us 20. So I have to multiply by 5 to the numerator as well, which is going to give us 45. And then we can add them together because they have the same denominator. So it's going to be 20 as the denominator and 32 plus 45 is going to give you 77. Okay? So now once we have done that, remember to read the question properly. It says give your answer as a mixed number. So then we have to convert our improper fraction into a mixed number. And that is going to be 3 wholes and 17/20. Okay? So basically, we know that 20 goes into 77 3 times, and there's the remainder of 17, and that is going to give you your answer. Okay? That was worth 2 marks in total, 2 marks in total. And part B, we have to show that 2 wholes and 2/3 divided by 6 is equal to 4/9. So what we need to do, basically have to work this out, and show that the answer is 4/9. So basically we're going to work it out and show that answer is 4/9. So you guys are correct. You have to use the keep, flip, and change method. So first thing I would do is I'm going to convert this mixed number into an improper fraction. That's going to be 8/3. So we have 8/3. We are dividing it by 6 as a fraction is going to be 6/1. So 6 as a fraction is 6/1, and we have 8/3 divided by 6/1. So if we are using the acronym KCF, that means keep, change, flip. We're going to keep this fraction the same, change the sign, so we have 8/3, keep this the same, change the sign into multiplication, and then flip this fraction. It's going to be 1/6. Now we can multiply it together. We're going to multiply it together. And then when you multiply it together, you're going to do 8 times 1 is going to be 8. And then 3 times 6 is going to give us 18. And then we're going to simplify this to 4/9. And guess what? That is the same answer as is given in the question. Like that. Okay? And that was the 2 mark again. Easy 2 marks. I normally do KCF because I think KCF makes more sense. Okay? If you remember it as KFC, you can do it as well, because like if you like chicken, then KFC works for you. I think KFC works better, like remembering it. So that was your second question done. And guys, do not forget to follow. I do live every single day. Don't want to miss it out. So let's move on to question number 3. We have to simplify 2 to the power of -5. So we have 2 to the power of -5 times 2 to the power of 8, and then to the power of 2, just like that. So the way you would do this is we're going to do everything inside the bracket first. So we're going to ignore this power outside. We're going to do 2 to the power of -5 times 2 to the power of 8. When we're multiplying and their base are the same, so the numbers are the same, and we're multiplying 2 indices, we have to add the powers. So it's going to add the powers. That's going to become 2 to the power of -5 plus 8. -5, -5 plus 8 is going to give you +3. That's going to be 2 to the power of 3. And then we're going to get back our brackets, and it's going to be 2 on the outside. This 2 over here is going to be there. So you have 2 to the power of 3 and 2 outside of the bracket. And now we are left with that. Now, when we have 2 brackets, one is inside the bracket and one's outside, you know you have to multiply them. So it's going to be 3 times 2, you're going to multiply the powers, and it's going to be 2 to the power of 6. And that's going to be your answer as a power of 2. Okay? This is the higher paper, guys. This is the higher paper. This is the higher paper. And guys, remember, we're only on question number 3. It might look a bit easy. We're only question number 3. So it's the start of the paper. It's going to be a bit easy at first. So when you get to the later questions, the question in the middle and towards the end, it's going to increase in difficulty. So now, we have to work out 0.004 times 0.32. Okay? So the way you would do this, the way I would do this, is you can write this. I would actually just do 4 times 32. I'll do 4 times 32, but I'm going to multiply this number. I'm going to multiply 0.004, multiply it by 1,000 to give us 4. And then we're going to do 0.32, multiplying it by 100 to give us 32. So I converted them into whole numbers, integers, so I can multiply them together. So then when you multiply them together, then remember this is a non-calculator paper. You're going to have to use the column method. We're going to do 32 times 4. Then that's going to give us 128. And then once we have done that, since we multiply this by 1000 and 100, we're going to have to divide by 1000 and then divide by 100. So we're going to do 128 divided by 1000. That's going to give us, move it 3 spaces back, going to be 0.128. And then 0.128 divided by 100 is going to give us 0.00128. So that's going to be your answer, 0.00128. There is actually another method. So if you convert both of those numbers into standard form, you can also work it out, okay? You can convert them into standard form. So do you guys want me to go over the standard form method? Do you guys want me to go through the standard form method? Give a thumbs up in the chat if you want me to go through the standard form method. So you will convert both of them into standard form, and then you can write it as standard form as well. So you don't want me to do it? Okay. So I won't do that. I won't do the standard form method, but basically you convert both of them into standard form, and then you can multiply them together, okay? So anyways, let's move on to question number 5, okay? This is the 2022 paper. So question number 5, a car factory is going to make 4 different car models, A, B, C, and D. 80 people are asked which of the 4 models they will be most likely to buy. The table shows information about the results. The factory is going to make 40,000 cars next year. Work out how many Model B cars the factory should make next year. So how many Model B cars they should make next year. So we know that they asked 80 people, and out of those 80 people, 15 people chose the Model B car. So it's going to be 15 over 80. That is how many people chose the Model B car, written as a fraction. Okay? So what you should do is basically make the denominator out of 40,000. We're going to make the denominator 40,000. So to make the denominator 40,000, first of all, I'm going to make the denominator 80,000 by multiplying by 1,000. Make the denominator 80,000 first. That's going to be more easier. That's going to be 15,000 as the numerator, and then we're going to divide by 2 on the. I divide by 2. Divide the fractions by 2, and that's going to be 7,500 divided over 40,000. You can divide it by, you can times by 500 at once, but since this is a non-calculator paper, I would prefer to go in simple steps so you do not make silly mistakes, okay? Do not make silly mistakes. And then your final answer is going to be 7,500 because you had to use this table and get your answer out of 40,000, and that's going to be 7,500. So that was a 2-mark question. 2-mark right there. So let's move on to question number 6. So Rizwan writes down 3 numbers A, B, and C. A to B is 1 to 3. B to C is 65. Find A to B to C. This is the classic combining ratio question. This is like the simplistic version of the combining ratios, okay? As you can see, in both of the ratios, B is the common value. B is the common letter in both of those ratios. We know in A to B, the ratio is 1 to 3. So A to B, the ratio is 1 to 3. And then in B to C, the ratio is 65. So to combine the ratios, to write the ratio A to B to C, what we need to do, we have to make our B values in both of the ratios the same. the b values in both of the ratios are the same. So we have to find a common multiple of the two b values. As you can see, we have 3 over here and we have 6 over here. What I would do, I'm going to make the b 6. I'm going to make both of the b 6 because you know that this is already 6. You have to multiply this ratio by 2. So we're going to get it to get, it's going to be 2 to 6. And then it's going to be 65, just like that. So 2 to 6 and 65, just like that. Now the b values are the same. They are common now. We can now literally combine the ratios. So you have to find a to b to c. Then the answer is going to be 2, which is a, 6, which is b, and then 5, which is c. And that's going to be your ratio a to b to c. So well done, guys, for getting that correct. So now, part 2 of the question is to express a as a fraction of the total of the 3 numbers a, b, and c. We have to express a as a fraction of the total of the 3 numbers a to b, a, b, and c. So, first of all, we need to work out the total of the 3 numbers a to b to c. Okay? The total, that's going to be our denominator. The total of the 3 numbers a to b to c. So to work out the total is going to be 2 plus 6 plus 5. I'm going to use this ratio. 2 plus 6 plus 5. 2 plus 6 plus 5 is going to give us 13. This is the total of the 3 numbers a to b to c. Okay? And then it says express a. Express a. Can someone tell me in the chat what is the value of a? You can literally see it in our ratio. We know that a is equal to 2. A is equal to 2. That means that it's going to be 2 over the total of the 3 numbers. So the total of the 3 numbers is 13. It's going to be 2 over 13. And that's going to be a as a fraction of the total of the 3 numbers. 2 over 13 is going to be your answer. That was a 2-mark question as well. Well done for getting that correct. Well done, guys. Well done. So we have part B of the question now. So Emma writes down 3 numbers m, n, and p. So n is equal to 2m. P is equal to 5n. Find m to p. We have to find the ratio m to p. Okay? So what we have to do is basically use these 2 equations to work out the ratio. So we're going to work it out. So we know that if we'll write this as like this. If m is equal to 1, what will be n? What will n be equal to? Can you stop spamming the chat? So if m is equal to 1, what will n be equal to? Using this equation, can someone tell me if m is equal to 1, what will be n equal to? It will be 2, right? Because we know that n is equal to 2m. So if we do 2 times 1, it's going to give us 2, right? Going to give us 2. Using our equation given in our chat, okay? So we know that n is going to be equal to 2. So then we can write this as a ratio. So ratio m to n is going to be 1 to 2. 1 to 2. Simple as that. 1 to 2, okay? That's going to be our ratio. Now we do the same thing. So the ratio, so when n is equal to 1, so if n is equal to 1, we know that p will be equal to 5, right? If n is equal to 1, p is equal to 5. See? Because we're going to use this equation. I wrote if. So we don't know the value, but I just wrote if it's equal to, okay? Because you have to write the ratio. Ratio is like proportions, and it can be any value, okay? So then we know that the ratio of n to p, so the ratio of n to p is going to be 1 to 5. 1 to 5. Now, as you can see, we now have a common letter. We have a common letter in both of our ratios, n. We have a common letter in both of our ratios, n. So now what we have to do, we have to make the numbers, the value of those 2 letters, the same. as you can see, we have a 2 over here, we have a 2 here, and we have a 1 here. We're going to multiply this ratio by 2 to get this n to be equal to 2. So that the two values are they're both common. So that's going to be 2 to 10. Now, n has the same value in both of the ratios. N has the same values in both of the ratios. So then what we're going to do, we're going to write the ratio m to n to p all together first of all. Right, and all together, so it's going to be m, which is 1, to n, which is 2, to p, which is 10. And then, but our final question says, right, find m to the ratio p. Then we just have to use our two values. It's going to be the m and the p. So 1 to 10, that's going to be your final ratio. 1 to 10, that is going to be a ratio. That was a 2-mark question as well. You want me to re-explain it? So what I first of all did is that I said if m is equal to 1, n will have to equal to 2, because according to our equation, if m is equal to 1, then n has to equal to 2. That's the same as saying if m is equal to 2, n is going to be double the amount, which is going to be 4. Then I wrote it as a ratio, just like that. Wrote it as a ratio, m to n, 1 to 2. Using those two values that I worked out. Then I did the same thing with the other equation. So I wrote if n is equal to 1, then p will have to equal to 5. Because if I substitute the value 1 into our second equation, we do 5 times 1, that means p is going to be equal to 5. And then I write that as a ratio. It's going to be 1 to 5. So n to p is going to be 1 to 5. And then we have our two ratios, and you notice that we have n common in both of the ratios. We have n common in both of the ratios, meaning that we can make both of the values, we're going to make both of the values the same, so we can combine those two ratios together. So we're going to make this, the lowest common multiple is going to be 2. Then I'm going to change the ratios to each value of n to 2. I'm going to multiply this ratio by 2, it's going to be 2 to 10. And then we can combine the ratio, meaning that it's going to be 1 to 2 to 10 to m to n to p. Combine the ratios together, and then we only want m to p, I mean that's going to be 1 to 10, okay? And that is how you get your final answer, m 1 to 10. I hope you guys get it now. I hope you guys get it. Give a thumbs up in the chat if you're ready to move on to your next question, and I just re-explained it, guys. So, moving on to our next question. So basically what we had to do is basically make your ratios first to answer the question. So we have question number 7. So there is a storage tank exerts a force of 10,000 newtons on the ground. The base of the tank in contact with the ground is 4 meters by 2 meters, which is a rectangle. Work out the pressure on the ground due to the tank. Work out the pressure. So we know that the formula for pressure is already given in our question. It says pressure is equal to force divided by the area. We already know the value of a force. We just need to work out the area. To work out the area, we are already given the dimension. It's 4 meters by 2 meters. So we can easily work out the area. So I have to do 4 times by 2 to give us 8 meters squared. That is our area. Now we worked out the area. We already know the force, so we can apply the formula to work out the pressure. So the pressure is going to be equal. Pressure is going to be equal to the total force, which is 10,000 newtons. So 10,000 divided by the area, which is going to be 8 meters. And then that we can simplify this fraction quickly to 5,000 over 4. 5,000 over 4. And that will give us a total answer of 1,250. And then that is going to be your pressure, 1,250. So that was a 2-mark question. You only have to spend like about 3 minutes doing this question. 3 minutes. Super simple. You already have one of the values how to work out the area and then use the formula to work it out, okay? Well done, guys, for getting that correct. Well done, guys. If you do not understand, what I basically did was that we are given the force. We are given the force. We know the force is 10,000. That means we do not need to work out the force. We already know the force. What we do need to work out, we need to work out the area. We are given the dimension, which is 4 meters by 2 meters. To work out the area, we do length times width. We do 4 times 2, which is 8 meters squared. We work out the area. We worked it out. Now we're going to use the two values. We're going to substitute it into our formula to work out the pressure. So we do 10,000 divided by 8, which gives you 1,250. And that is going to be your pressure. Cool. Let's move on to our next question. So you have question number 8. So we have two numbers, m and n, such that m is a multiple of 5 and n is an even number. The highest common factor of m and n is 7. Write down the possible value of m and a possible value of n. That means that what we're going to do, we know that we have to work out a possible value of m and n, and it says that the highest common factor of m and n is 7. That means that m and n are both multiples of 7. So if they have a factor of 7, if the highest common factor of m and n is 7, m and n is 7, that means they are both multiples of the number 7. That means they have to be in the 7 times tables. They have to be in the 7 times tables. So now we know, I'm going to list out the 7 times tables. So you have 7, 14, 20, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, and let's do one more, 42. Now, once we have done that, now what we're going to do, we know that m is a multiple of 5. M is a multiple of 5. So can someone tell me from this list which of these numbers is also a multiple of 5? It is going to be 35, obviously. So m, we know it's going to be 35. M is going to be 35. Well done. M is going to be 35. And we know that n is an even number. So then I'm just going to choose 14, as that's like the lowest even number. So I'm going to choose 14. And that's going to be your answer. And make sure you choose 14. Okay? Because it says the highest common factor of m and n is 7. To choose the lowest even number. The smallest even number, I shall say. And that's going to be your easy 2 marks as well. 2 marks right there. Well done for getting that correct. So, moving on to our next question. We have question number 9a. We have to complete the table values for y is equal to 6x minus x cubed. You have y is equal to 6x minus x cubed. So whenever we have this type of question, what we have to do, we have to complete the table values. So we know that we are given the values of x. These are a value of x. So what we need to do, we have to substitute these values of x into our equation to get out the value of y, to get the value of y, to get your answer, okay? So the first one's already done. So minus 3 is already done for you. So we're going to have to do minus 2. So remember, this is a non-calculator paper, so you're going to have to use your working out to do this. So we're going to do y is equal to 6, and then it's going to be minus 2 as x. So we're going to put minus 2 over here, and then minus 2 cubed, okay? Minus 2 cubed. So the way you would do this, you're going to do minus 2 cubed. Minus 2 cubed is going to give us negative 8. Because if you negative 2 times negative 2 is going to give you positive 4, and then positive 4 times by negative 2 is going to give you negative 8. So then you're going to be left with y is equal to negative 12 minus negative 8. And then we know that if there's a negative and a negative together, that's going to be minus 12 plus 8. That's going to give you negative 4. That's going to be negative 4 over there. Okay, that's going to be your first value over there. Okay, well done for getting that correct. Minus 4. So where did I get the minus 2 cubed from? Is because I'm using this value of x, I'm using minus 2. Substitute the value of minus 2 into each of the x's in the formula to get the value of y. Okay? So then, you do the same thing for every single thing else. You do the same thing with minus 1, 0, and 1. So, we do the same thing, okay? So, as you guys know, the 0, 1 is going to be equal to 0. So if x is equal to 0, then you know that y will also be equal to 0, because if you multiply by 0, then it's going to give us 0. It's going to be 0 over here as well. And then for 1, you're going to substitute 1. It's going to be 6, and then 1 substituted in. Then minus 1 cubed. That's going to be 6 minus 1, giving you 5. Okay? So where does the 6 come from? That is in our equation. So 6 is in our equation. So if I highlight this, y is equal to 6x minus x cubed. That is in our equation, okay? Okay? So then we worked out the value. Then we're going to do the same thing with negative 1. And when you do the same thing, you're going to get an answer of negative 5, okay? That's going to be your answer. So, now once we have done that, we know that this is a cubic graph, because you notice that there's an x to the power of 3. It is a cubic graph. Does anyone know what type of shape does a cubic graph make? What type of shape? So I'm going to draw some shape. Will it make this type of shape? A U shape, a S shape, a straight line? So S shape, U shape, or a straight line, what will it make? Type 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. 1, 2, or 3. You guys should know you can cancel them out. You use the process of elimination. So you know that the U shape is made from a quadratic, and then a straight line is a linear equation. That means that it's gonna be number 2, okay? It's gonna make this type of shape when you plot it in. That means if it makes this type of shape, that means that you are correct, basically. You should know that you're correct, okay? Let's do that. So now, we know these are our coordinates. So we know that if x is equal to negative 3, we know that y is equal to 9. So if x is equal to negative 3, we know that y is going to be equal to 9. So we're going to put 9, plot it right there. And then, if x is equal to negative 2, then we know that y is going to be negative 4. We're going to plot it there. I don't know you have if x is equal to negative 1, y is equal to negative 5, plot it right there. And then when that's 0, then it's going to be 0 there. And then if x is equal to 1, we know that y is going to be equal to 5. Plot it there. Right there. And then 2, and then 4, 3, and then negative 9. And then, once we have done that, you're not done yet, because we have to connect those lines. And remember, if you use a ruler to connect them, you're not going to get the mark, okay? You're not going to get the mark. Use your free hand. Do not be scared. Use a ruler if you are scared to make mistakes. So just use a free hand. You're supposed to make a curve. You cannot use straight lines to do this, okay? Use a curve. So you're going to be something like that, okay? Why I can't use a ruler? It's because cubic graphs, quadratic graphs have to be a curve. They have to be a curve. They're a curved line. You cannot use rulers to do it, okay? So this whole page was worth 4 marks. Let's move on to our next question. So question number 10, we have Lena spins a biased 5-sided spinner 40 times. Here are her results. So we have, she got the score 6 times, and then etc. Then Lena is now going to spin the spinner another 2 times. Work out an estimate for the probability that she's going to get a score of 5 both times. So we know that this is a biased dice. A spinner. See, this is a biased spinner. That means it's not going to have equal probability for each of those outcomes. We need to work out the probability of getting a 5. We need to work out the probability of getting a 5. Does anyone know how you would work out the probability of getting a 5? We're looking at this one over here. So she got a 5 10 times out of 40 throws. She got a 5 10 times out of the 40 throws. What's going to be the probability? So basically, she got 5 10 times. So it's going to be 10 out of the number of tries she did it out of 40 times, okay? It's going to be 10 out of 40. 10 out of 40, she got a 5. So we're going to simplify it to a quarter. Now that is our probability, our estimated probability she will get a 5. Now it says you have to work out the probability that she's going to get a score of 5 both times. So you're going to get a 5 2 times in a row. So now we're going to do a multiply. So she gets a quarter times a quarter, multiplying them together. That's going to give us 1 over 16. And that is going to be your estimated probability of getting a score of 5 both times. 1 over 16. Where did I get the 40 from? Is because we know that she spins the 5-sided spinner 40 times in total. 40 times is in the question. Why do you times it by itself twice? Is because she spins the spinner. She says we need to work out the probability that she's gonna get a score of 5 times. She's gonna get a score of 5 both times if she spins it twice. Okay, so you have to multiply it together 2 times. Okay. Where does the 10 come from? Is from here. 10 comes from right here. You can see 10 over here. She gets a frequency of 10 when she gets 5 10 times when she does it 40 times, okay? So now Derek is going to spin the spinner a larger number of times. Work out an estimate for the percentage of times Derek can expect to get a score of 1. So what we're going to do, we're now actually going to use this table. So we're going to work this out. So we said we have to work out the percentage of times Derek can expect to get a score of 1. Okay? Score of 1. So we're looking at the 1 over here. So we're going to work out the biased probability, the estimated probability. So in the chat, can you tell me what is the probability of getting a 1? And remember, the frequency of 1 is 6 out of 40. So what is the probability of getting a 1? What is the probability of getting a 1? Yeah, it's going to be 6 over 40. Well done. It's going to be 6 over 40. Because the frequency is 6 out of 40 trials. 6 out of 40, well done. And now it says we have to work out an estimate for the percentage of times Derek can expect to get a score of 1. So, we know that percentages are always out of 100. Percentages are out of 100. That means we have to make our denominator 100. So the way you would make your denominator out 100, we're going to first make the denominator 20. So we divide by 2 to make the denominator 20. To divide by 2, it's going to be 3 over 20. And then you're going to times it by 5 to make our denominator 100. So that's going to be 100 over 15. 15 over 100. And that as a percentage is going to be 15%. And that's going to be your answer. Why did I put it out of 20? Because you have to make it out of 100. I cannot just do I can't straight away go from 40 to 100. I cannot go from 40 to 100 straight away. So I would do it step by step. So I'll divide by 2 first and then times by 5. So then you can get to 100 easily. So if you have to do 40 times 2.5. You have to do 40 times 2.5 to get to 100. That's a harder method to do. So I would rather do it to 20 first and then 100. And then that's how you get your answer, okay? This question was worth 4 marks in total. Do you times by 5 because it's a 5-sided spinner? No, you do not. You multiply by 5 because you want the denominator to be out of 100. You want the denominator to be 100 because it says percentage. Percentages are out of 100. You want the denominator to be 100. That's why you're multiplying 20 by 5 to give you 100. Okay? Moving on to our next question. We have question number 11. So we have to describe fully the single transformation that maps shape P onto shape Q. So we're going from shape P to shape Q. Going from this shape to this shape right here. So automatically, what is this transformation? Can someone tell me in the chat? Is it enlargement, reflection, vector? What else are there? Yes, you got it correct. It's enlargement. Yes, it's enlargement. So whenever there's an enlargement, we have to write it's an enlargement, and then you have to write the scale factor. You have to write it's an enlargement, and then you have to write the scale factor, and then you also have to write the center of enlargement. Okay, to get the full 2 marks, you have to identify it's an enlargement. You have to work out its scale factor, and then you have to work out the center of its enlargement. Okay. So know that it's an enlargement, and then you know that it's going from 3 centimeters to 1 centimeter. That means we are dividing by 3, right? So we're going to write it as 1 over 3. That means we are multiplying by a third. That means that it's going to be scale factor of a third. Remember, scale factor is always multiplication. So you have to do times in by a third instead of dividing by 3, okay? Scale factor of a third. Now, to work out a center of enlargement, what we're going to have to basically connect the lines together. So basically, we are going to connect this side with this side. I'm going to do a straight line to work out center of enlargement. So I'm going to go from here and connect them up like that. Okay? And then I'm going to do the same with these 2 lines because these are the same vertex that are enlarged. You have to connect the same vertex. You can see this is basically the same vertex. These 2 are the same vertex, okay? The ones that are like the same, like in both of them, okay? And then you have to select these 2 These 2, it's going to be from, so let me quickly convert these back. It's going to be from here to there. It's going to be here. And remember to use a ruler, okay? Remember to use a ruler. Because you have to get the accurate one. So when you connect them, you should notice that a center of enlargement is this one over here. You will notice that it's a center of enlargement. So when all those 4 lines connect, where all 4 lines intersect each other, that's going to be the center of enlargement. So right over here, the center of enlargement is 0, 2. The coordinate of 0, 2. So I'm going to write center of 0, 2. So center of 0, 2. And then that is going to give us the full 2 miles. Yeah, I can't draw straight lines. We cannot draw straight lines. Literally, I cannot. So you basically you connect from vertex to vertex. So we know that this is the same vertex as this one. So you connect these, okay? So let me quickly do that. So that it's gonna be that, okay? So how do you work out the center? I mean the scale factor. So we know that we're going from P to Q. We're going this way. We are going this way of the enlargement. So the way you would do this to work out the scale factor, we know that this is 3 centimeters. We know that this is 4 centimeters. We know that to go from 3 to 1, you have to multiply by a third to get to 1, okay? That's how you work out the scale factor. It's a multiplication. You can't do divide by 3. You can't do the scale factor is 3 because you're dividing by 3, okay? Okay? This is 1 centimeter, guys. This is 1 centimeter. So 1 box means 1 centimeter, okay? Let's move on to our next question. And guys, do not forget to follow. So we have to solve the simultaneous equations. 5x plus 2y is equal to 11. And then 4x plus 3y is equal to 6. With simultaneous equations, we have 2 methods. We either have the elimination method or the substitution method. So which method are we going to be using in this one? Which method are we going to be? Are we going to be using the elimination method or the substitution method? Which one are we going to be using? We're going to be using the not the substitution method. We're going to be using the elimination method. We do not use the substitution method unless it is a quadratic simultaneous equation, okay? I would recommend using the substitution method. Use the elimination method, guys, as it's more easier. So, the way the elimination method works is that you have to make one of the variables, so the x letter, let's say in this case, the x letter is the same, okay? We have 5x plus 2y is equal to 11. And we have 4x plus 3y is equal to 6. To make the coefficients, the numbers in front of x the same, we're going to make them both 20, okay? We're going to make them 20x, okay? Make them 20x. So we're going to have to multiply our first equation by 4 to make it 20x, and our second equation by 5 to make it 20x, okay? So give a thumbs up in the chat if you understand what I'm doing at this specific point. Good. Now we're going to multiply. It's going to be times by 4, this whole equation. So it's going to be 20x plus 8y is equal to 44. Remember, we're going to multiply every single letter and number in that equation. It's going to be 20x plus 8y is equal to 44. And we're going to multiply the second equation by 5. It's going to be 20x plus 15y is equal to 30. Okay. And now, once we have done that, to cancel out, to subtract, to get rid of our x's, we're going to have to subtract our 2 equations together. And subtract our 2 equations together. So 20x minus 20x is going to give you 0. Basically, they just cancel each other out, give us nothing, okay? 20x minus 20x give us 0, give us nothing. And then, we have 8y minus 15y. 8y minus 15y is going to give you negative 7y. Remember, it's a negative 7y. Okay, 8 minus 15 is going to give you negative 7. And then 44 minus 30. 44 minus 30 is going to give you 14. Now, we worked that out. We know minus 7y is equal to 14. So can someone tell me in the chat what is the value of y? What is the value of y? If we know that minus 7y is equal to 14, it's going to be negative 2. Well done. It's going to be negative 2. Well done, guys. Negative 2. So we know that the value of y is equal to negative, so we're just going to put that over here. We know that y is equal to negative 2. And now, to work out the value of x now, what we're going to do, we're going to substitute it back into our original equation to work out the value of our x. So I'm going to be using the first equation. So we have the equation 5x. So you have 5x plus 2y is equal to 11. So I'm going to use my y is equal to negative 2 and substitute it into my equation. So then we're going to have 5x plus 2, and then the value of y, which is negative 2, then 2, and then negative 2 is equal to 11. And we know that 2 times negative 2 is going to give you negative 4. That's going to be 5x minus 4 is going to give you 11. And then we're going to add 4 on both sides. Add 4 on both sides to give you 5x. Because 5x is equal to 15. And then, can someone tell me in the chat what will be the value of x if 5x is equal to 15? Well done, guys. X is equal to 3. X will be equal to 3. X is equal to 3. And that will be your answer. That was a 4-mark question, guys. You should get the simultaneous equation question correct. Literally, it's easy 4 marks. I think simultaneous equations are always 4 marks. You should get them correct. You should expect a simultaneous equation question to come up in your higher paper non-calculator. So you want me to repeat the question? I can go through it again once more. So what we did is that we have our two equations. To solve simultaneous equations, you have to make one of our variables the same. Meaning one of the numbers in front of our x, in this case, the same. So we have 5x and 4x. This means that we have to make both of those, we have to make it 20x basically. The lowest common multiple, which is 20x. To make the first equation 20x, you have to multiply by 4. To make the second equation 20x, you have to multiply by 5. I only multiply by 4 and multiply by 5, you get these two equations, okay? I mean, these two equations. Now what we have to do, we're going to subtract these two equations because we want to cancel out. We want to get rid of our 20x. You want to get rid of the 20x, and we're going to subtract the two equations together. And now once we have done that, we're going to do 20x minus 20x is going to give you 0. There's nothing there. And then 8 minus 15 is going to give you negative 7. 8y minus positive 15 is going to give you minus 7y. And then we have 44 minus 30 is going to give you 14. And then you worked out the value of y, and that y is equal to negative 2. Y is equal to negative 2. And then we work out the value of y, which is negative 2. And then we use the value of y, substitute it into our equation, a normal equation, the first equation that's given in our question. Substitute it in, and then you find the value of x. And that's how you get x is equal to 3. And that's going to be your answer. Okay? And that's going to be your answer. So, let's move on to our next question. So, we have P is inversely proportional to T. Complete the table values. We have to complete the table of values. So, to complete the table values, you should know the equation for inverse proportion. So, if we know that P is inversely proportional to T, can someone tell me what will be the equation that you're going to write to help you to complete the table values? It is inverse proportion question. So it's going to be P is equal to K over T. That is the inverse proportion. That's the inverse proportion equation, okay? In this context, normally is y is equal to k over x, but in this context, it's p over k over t. So now, to work this out, what you would have to do is you have to work out the value of our k. Work out the value of our constant. That means that if p is equal to 1, and we know that t is equal to 100, we have to work out the value of our constant. We know that the k is equal to 100. Okay? This is the mathematical way of working out or doing inverse proportions, okay? Inverse proportion, this is the mathematical way of doing it out, okay? So to answer this question, you have to know the inverse proportion. K stands for constant. That is always in proportion. That's in the proportionality formula. So then our formula that we're going to be using to work out these missing values, this formula we're going to be using is going to be P. The formula we're going to be using is going to be P is equal to 100 over T. That is the formula of working out. That's the formula. That's going to be the formula we're going to be using to working out our missing values. So we know that T is equal to 25. If T is equal to 25, we know that we are going to have to substitute T in this equation. Is going to be 100 divided by 25. That means P is going to be equal to 4. And then if P is equal to 5, we're going to do 100 times P is going to be 5. We're going to do 100 divided by 5, going to be 20. And then if T is equal to 2, then we're going to do 100 divided by 2 is going to be 50. Okay? And that's how you would work it out, okay? And that's going to be your answer. It's pretty simple if you know how to make equations, that's the word, to form equations of inverse proportionality, then you can work it out, okay? So it's going to be 3 marks total. Cool. Will I post a 2024 paper on my channel? Once I get my hand on that paper, I will post it on my TikTok. I will go through it in my live. I'll do every single question because I actually haven't seen the paper yet. I know like some of the questions that came up on the test, but I haven't like actually like seen the whole paper. Okay? So let's move on to our next question then. Give a thumbs up in the chat if you're ready to move on to our next question. Give a quick thumbs up. So we have question number 14. So we have the table shows information about the weight in grams of some potatoes on the grid. Draw a histogram for this information. We have to draw a histogram for this information. So the way we draw a histogram is we know that it's from 50 to 70. So we know that it's going to be from 50 to 70. The histogram, you know that it's going to be the frequency density. We know that frequency density is in our y-axis, and we know that the weight is over here. So to work out the frequency density, you need the formula for frequency density. So the formula for frequency density is we know that frequency density is equal to the frequency divided by the width. So the range or the class width, whatever, okay, is the range. So we are going to work out the width or the range, okay? I'm going to write range in brackets, then you guys do not get confused. This is the range, okay? The range. So if our range for this is 20, I'm gonna write the range. So this is the range. So for this first one, the range is 20. Second one, the range is 10, 10, and 20. Those are our ranges. These are our width. Okay? Now, we are now going to work out the frequency density, the FD, FD, the frequency density. So to work out the frequency density, you have to do the frequency, which is our number of potatoes, divided by 20. Okay? What is 20 divided by 20, guys? In the chat, what is 20 divided by 20? Remember, guys, you look at your x-axis, your y-axis is already labeled for. It's the frequency density. This is a different histogram. Remember, look at this. Frequency density. I'm just scribbling it everywhere. So it's frequency density. So the first one, the frequency density for the first one is 1. For the second one, we have to do 50 divided by 10. It's going to be 5. For the third, it's going to be 60 divided by 10. It's going to be 6. And for the last one, it's going to be 30 divided by 20. It's going to be 1.5. Okay? It's going to be 1.5. Right there. Okay? So now, we have done that. Now we're going to label our y-axis with the suitable, label it at a suitable degree. Okay? So I'm going to do 2 boxes. So it's going to be 0. 1 here. 2 there. 3. I'm going to leave 4, 2 boxes between each increment. Okay? 5, 6, and then 7. Okay? You get a mark for labeling, okay? You would have to label in an exam. You will get 1 mark for labeling, and then 2 marks for the actual bar chart, okay? So now we can actually draw the histogram. Or so basically a histogram is a type of bar chart, bar graph. So then, we know for this histogram, we know that the width is going to be from 50 to 70. It's going to be from 50 to 70, and then it's going to go up to the frequency density of 1. So it's going to go from here, 1, just like that. Okay, remember, it's going to be from frequency density, it's going to go from, it's going to be from 50 to 60, and then goes up to 1, because that's our frequency density. And then we're going to have the same thing for the second one. We have the range 70 to 80, and it go as a frequency density of 5. They're going to go up to 5, and then over here. And then the same thing over here. It's going to be to 6. Draw it like that. So guys, you should know how to do this. And remember, use a ruler. Use a ruler for this. And then lastly, 1.5 is going to be from this. And remember, it's going to be double the size because of its range, okay? And that's how you would do it. Well done, guys, for getting that correct. That was 3 marks as well. There are a lot of marks to achieve. Easy marks. So basically what I did was that I first worked out the frequency density of each row. Or each row where I worked out the frequency density. So the formula for frequency density is the frequency divided by the width or the range. Okay? In this case, it's the range. So I told you the width, the range of each of these inequalities. With the range for the first one is 20, 10 for the second one, 10 for the third one, and then we have 20 for the last one. To work out the frequency density, we need 20, which is the frequency divided by 20, which is 1, 50 divided by 10, which is 5, 60 divided by 10, which is going to be 6, and then 30 divided by 20 is going to be 1.5. Okay? That is our frequency density. How did I work out the width? To work out the width, you just do this number minus this number. 70 minus 50 is 20, 80 minus 70 is 10, 90 minus 80 is 10, 110 minus 90 is 20. Okay, that's how you would do it. And then you would just use these information, the frequency density and the weight. Then you would draw your histogram. Okay. Well done, guys, for getting that correct. So we have question number 15. So the diagram shows a sector of a circle of radius 18 centimeters The length of the arc is 4 pi centimeters. Work out the value of x. We have to work out the value of x. So it says the length of the arc is 4 pi centimeters. So the length of the arc is 4 pi centimeters. So we know that this part over here, this length over here, is going to be 4 pi centimeters. Okay? So we know that to work out the value of x, our formula to work it out, it's going to be this, our angle, x, divided by 360 degrees, because angles around a point add up to 360 degrees, times it by 2 pi r. 2 pi r is the formula for the circumference. So x times by 2 pi r is going to be equal to 4 pi, okay? It's going to be x over 360 times 2 pi r is equal to 4 pi. Okay? So guys, once you have done that, so if you guys do not know what 2 pi r means, that is how to find the circumference. And then 4 pi, that we know that's the length of the arc, and that's how we find the sector, the area of the sector, okay? Now once we've done that, we're going to substitute our values in. We know our radius is 18, it's already given in our question, so it's going to be x over 360 times by 2 pi, and our radius, which is 18, is equal to 4 pi. And then once we have done that, what we're going to do, we're going to simplify this. So we have 2 pi is going to be x over 360 times by 36 pi is equal to 4 pi, okay? X over 360 times by 36 pi is equal to 4 pi. And then once we have done that, what we're going to do, we're going to quickly multiply them together. So you're going to multiply, it's going to move to the numerator. So it's going to be 36 pi over 360 is equal to 4 pi. So we have 36 pi over 360 is equal to 4 pi. And now, once we have done that, we can now cancel these pi's together. Since we know that this is a non-calculator paper, we can't really work out the value of pi. So we're going to quickly cancel these out. These can cancel each other out. And then we know that it's going to be 36 over 360 is equal to 4. Okay, 36 over 360 is equal to 4. Remember, do not forget the x. Do not forget about the x over here. It's 36 over 360 is equal to 4. 36x is over 360 is equal to 4. And now, once we have done that, we know that 36 divided by 360, so if we do 36 divided by 360, we divide by 10. We divide by 10. So then, what you would do is that we're going to simplify this to x over 10 is equal to 4. And we know that x is going to be equal to 40. And that's going to be your answer. X is going to be equal to 40. Okay? So then to get to this part over here, to get to this specific part over here, you would have to divide by 10 by the numerator and the denominator on both sides, so denominator and the numerator, to the value of our x. Question. So what we just did, we used our formula for the circumference, and then the angle, which is x over 360 times 2 pi r, which is the circumference, which is equal to 4 pi. Then we substitute the values in, and we then rearrange it to find the value of x. And then you get your answer, okay? So where did I get the 2 from? Because that is our formula to find the circumference. 2 pi r. That is the formula for the circumference. So let's move on to our next question. So you have to prove that 2m plus 1 squared minus 2n minus 1 squared is equal to 4, and then some brackets after that. So the way you would do this is, first of all, we are going to look at this left-hand side of this specific side of our equation. The left-hand side of the equation. So the way you would do this is, first of all, we're going to expand these out. Okay, expand this out. So we're going to rewrite this. I'm going to expand this out as 2m plus 1, and then 2m plus 1, and then it's going to be minus 2n minus 1, and then 2n minus 1. Okay, but it's going to write that down, okay? So, no, I'm saying this part over here, the part of the equation which is on the left-hand side of the equal sign, okay? Now, this is n. This second part is n. So if I zoom in, this part over here is n, okay? So then once we have done that, what you would do, you would expand this out. When you expand this out, you're going to do 2m times 2m is going to give us 4m squared. So you guys should already know how to expand easily, okay? 4m squared, 2m times 1 is going to be plus 2m. 2m, 1 times 2 is going to be plus 2m, and then plus 1 minus, it's going to be 2n, and then times by 2 is going to be 4n squared. I'm going to put this one in brackets, so 4n squared. And then we have 2n times negative 1 is going to be negative 2n. Then 2n minus 1 times 2n is going to be negative 2n. Then plus 1. And then what you would do is that you're going to simplify this. So now when you simplify it, it's going to be 4m squared plus 4m squared plus 4m plus 1 is minus, and that's going to be 4n squared minus 4n plus 1. Okay? So now, once we have done that, we will now simplify these two equations together. Okay, we're going to simplify these two equations together. So, we have 4m squared and plus 4m minus 1. And then 4n squared plus 4n minus 1. So when you put them together, you would do plus 1, and then we'll do plus 1 and a minus 1. So, plus 1 and a minus 1. So remember, since this is in a bracket, this is going to turn negative 4n. Guys, just to let you know, if you're rude in the chat, the moderators will block you, and I might personally block you as well. Just to let you know. You guys should know that if the actual guy blocks you, that's even worse. You realize that, okay? So, now, once we have done that, we got to this stage. Now, you guys probably realize that this is in a bracket. Now, since we have to get this out of our bracket, this is going to turn into negative 4n squared plus 4n minus 1. It's going to be 4m squared plus 4m plus 1 minus 4n squared plus 4n minus 1, okay? This is what's going to be, it's going to turn out, okay? This is how it's going to turn out. So now once we have done that, now I'm going to simplify this. So basically our whole aim for this is to get this answer. The whole purpose of this is to get this specific answer over there. We're going to get this specific answer. That's the whole point of proving it. Cool. We have done that. We know that we can do plus 1 and negative 1. This is going to cancel each other out. We have a plus 1 over here and a minus 1 over here. Meaning that it's going to cancel each other out. So positive 1 minus 1, they will just cross each other out. And then we have 4m squared plus 4m minus 4n squared plus 4n. And now once we have done that, as you can see, we have a 4 common in all of these numbers. We have 4 common in all of these terms. 4 common in all of these terms. Meaning that we're going to take 4 out as our common factor and we're going to factorize this. And it's going to be m squared plus m minus n squared plus n. And now, once we have done that, now you can factorize this into brackets. Factorize this into these brackets. And then I'm just going to write it as 4. This is going to be the difference of 2 squares. The difference of 2 squares is going to be m plus n. So m plus n, m minus n, plus m n, and then that should lead to your final answer. That's going to simplify it to that. Okay. That's a lot of working now, and it doesn't even fit on the page as well. And then that should lead to that answer, okay? Basically, you're factorizing is basically factorizing brackets and brackets, okay? So now, part B. It says, Sophia says that the results in part A shows a difference of 2 squares of any odd numbers must be a multiple of 4. Is Sophia correct? The answer is yes. It's because we worked at the difference of 2 squares and it's to a factor of 4, meaning that it's going to be correct, okay? I'm just going to write 4, okay? I'm going to write yes. I'm going to write m plus n and m minus n is a difference of 2 squares and is a multiple of 4. Okay? Where would the 1 come from in part A? The 1 is going to come from when you expand these to get 2 together. So when you expand these 2 out, so these brackets over here, when you expand this out, you're going to get a 1. Expand this, it's going to give you a m minus n plus 1, okay? Only that bracket, okay? Only that specific bracket you should get. So that was a 3-mark question. So I think on the higher paper, they're a bit harsh on the marks. Okay, they're a bit harsh on the marks. So that was a 3 marks for that. So 4 marks in total. So well done, guys. So let's move on to question number 17. We have to work out 8 over 27 and then 4 over 3. Okay, 4 to the power of 3. So we have 8 over 27, which is a fraction, to the power of 4 over 3. So what we're going to do, we know that we have to first of all cube root the numerator and our denominator. So this 3 over here, the 3 over here means the cube root. We have to do the cube root, and the 4 means the power of 4. Okay, the power of 4. So those what it means. Me personally, I will start by doing the cube root. I'll get rid of the denominator first. So when you do the cube root, it's going to be the cube root of 8 over the cube root of 27 and to the power of 4. Do not forget the power of 4. That means if we do the cube root of 8, we know that the cube root of 8 is 2. It's going to be 2 over to the cube root of 27. It's going to be 3. 2 over 3 and to the power of 4. And then we're going to do that. That's going to be then 2 to the power of 4 over 2 to the power, 3 to the power of 4 then. 3 to the power of 4. And then it's going to give you 2 to the power of 4 is 16. And 3 to the power of 4 is 81. And that's going to be your answer. It's going to be 16 to the power of 81. So Z, you were close. Yes, so in simple terms, what you do is that you will do the cube root of the numerator and the denominator, and then you do the fourth power, then you do the power of 4 on both the numerator and the denominator. Okay? Cool. That was a 2-mark question. That's an easy question. Very easy 2 marks to achieve. Moving on to our next question. I hope you guys like circle theorem, because who likes circle theorems? In the chat, tell me if you like circle theorems. So if you like circle theorems, you are a bit lucky, because our next question, probably guessed it, circle theorems. So we have A and B are points on a center, circle. Center is 0. So A and B are points on a circumference of a circle. And then DBC is a tangent to the circle at B. This is a tangent to the circle at B. And angle AOB is equal to x degrees, labeled over here x degrees. So it says show that angle ABC, so angle ABC to this angle over here, ABC, this angle over here, is a half of x degrees. So it's a half of this angle over here. You must give each reason for your answer. That means that we know that tangents meet the radius at 90 degrees. That means that this angle over here, DBO, this angle over here, must be 90 degrees, right? So angle DBO is equal to 90 degrees, because we know that tangents meet the radius at 90 degrees. We know that tangents meet radius at 90 degrees. This is going to be a right angle triangle. It's going to be right 90 degrees right there. And then, can someone tell me what type of triangle this is? What type of triangle is this in the chat? Is it a scaling triangle, equilateral triangle, isosceles triangle? What type of triangle is this? Yes, it is an isosceles triangle. It is because these two lengths are the same, because they are the radius, and radius is going to be the same. That means these two angles are going to be the same. These two angles are going to be the same. Then for these two, we're going to write an expression to find, to tell which of these are the angles. So the expression for these two angles, I write it over here, is going to be 180 minus x divided by 2. That is going to be the expression of these two separate angles, okay? That expression. So that then we're gonna write angle OAB, angle OAB, and angle OAB and OBA are angles is equal to 180 minus x over 2, because they are angles at the base of an isosceles triangle are equal. So I'm going to write angles at the base of an isosceles triangle are equal, okay? Now we got that. That's good. Now we have to now write it as like, to work, we have to now write this as an equation. Can't just say it's 60. It is not 60. We do not know the value of x, so we cannot say that it's 60. Okay? Only in an equilateral triangle it's going to be 60. We do not know the value of x, so we cannot explicitly say that it is 60. So then we're going to write it as an equation. So that means we know that ABC, so we know that angle ABC is going to be 90. It's going to be 90 degrees. 90 minus 180 minus x over 2. So this angle over here, that mark there is going to be 90 degrees minus this angle, which is 180 minus x over 2. And then when you simplify this, when you do 180 divided by 2, it's going to be 90 minus 180 divided by 2 is going to be 90 minus x over 2. Okay? And then when you do that, 90 minus these two cancel each other out, and that's going to give us, remember, it's going to be plus x over 2 because we have a negative here, plus x, it's going to be positive x over 2, and that's going to be x over 2, and that's over there. Meaning that it's going to be half of x. And that's going to be your answer. Proved. Okay? There should be about, we have a lot of questions left actually. It goes up to like 25, I think. 25 in the paper. Or 26. So let's move on to our next question. You have to solve 1 over x minus 1 over x plus 1 is equal to 4. You have to give your answer in the form a plus minus b root 2, where a and b are fractions. Okay, a and b are fractions. So the way you would do this is that we have a fraction, we are subtracting fractions. That means we have to have a common denominator. We have to have a common denominator to work out to show that it is equal to 4. Okay? We have to have a common denominator. So to work out the common denominator, you're going to have to multiply these two denominators together. So we have x, and then we have x plus 1. To work out the common denominator, we're going to multiply these two denominators together to get its common denominator. So if the first denominator is going to be x and then x plus 1. And for the second number, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be x and then x plus 1. And then, so whenever you do to the denominator, you do the numerator. So since we're multiplying this denominator by x plus 1, you do the same thing in the top one. That's going to be turned into x plus 1. And then you're timing this one by x. That means it's going to be x over here. And that's going to be equal to 4. So the only thing that we did was that we made them both have a common denominator. So in the chat, can you please give a thumbs up in the chat if you understand at this specific point what I have done? Okay, because I don't want to do the whole question and at the end you're going to be telling me what do you do in part 1, like what they're doing in this first step. Because this is a 5-mark question and I want you guys to get the full 5 marks. Okay? So for the people that have a thumbs down, what I basically did is that I made them both have a common denominator, okay? and made them both have a common denominator. To make them both have a common denominator, what you would have to do is you have to multiply those two denominators together. Multiply those two denominators together. So we have x and x plus 1, you multiply them together. So we're going to put them as like brackets together, okay? When you do that, since we are multiplying by x plus 1 on the first fraction, you are multiplying by x plus 1 on the first fraction, so you have to multiply the numerator as well by x plus 1. You know that 1 times x plus 1 is going to give you x plus 1 just like that. And then we are multiplying the second fraction by only x, meaning that we have to multiply the x. You have to multiply the numerator with x. That's going to give us x. Which is then it's equal to 4, as that's in our question, okay? That's how you would do it. And then, once we have done that, now we can now combine our two fractions together as they have the same denominator. We're going to combine them together. So we're going to have x plus 1 minus x over x, and then x plus 1 is equal to 4, okay? Just like that. And now we're going to simplify this. And when you simplify this, these two are going to cancel each other out. So we have x minus x. That's going to leave us with 1. So I'm going to rub this out like that. So x minus x equals 1. So we're left with 1 over x, then brackets x plus 1. Okay? What are these types of questions called? These are called algebraic fractions. Algebraic fractions is I think it's like a grade 7 or 8 topic. So, and now once we have done that, to find the value of our x, basically to write in the form, what you would have to do is find the value of your x. So, you're going to get rid of the denominator, you have to multiply by the denominator on both. So multiply by x, then brackets x plus 1, and then multiply this side by x, bracket x plus 1 on both sides. So then, you're going to end up with 1 is equal to 4, and then 4x, then x plus 1. So you'll be multiply them together, okay? How do I get x plus 1 and minus x? It's because you need to find the common denominator, and you have to multiply the denominator together. That means you have to multiply the numerator as well. I explained this like a million times now. You have to to find the common denominator, you also have to multiply the numerator as well. So whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. That's why you get some weird letters on the numerators. Okay? So we're at this specific step. Now the next logical step to do is to expand the brackets, right? Expanding the brackets. So now there's going to be, expand the bracket is going to be 1 is equal to 4x squared plus 4x, okay? And now once we have done that, we're now going to, since this is a quadratic, you know that we're going to be using our quadratic formula. It's going to be minus 1, both sides. Or you don't really have to use the quadratic formula, but I think you have to use it for this one. It's going to be 0 is equal to 4x squared plus 4x minus 1. We're at the specific point now. And to get this into this form over here, you're going to use the quadratic formula to get this into the form. When you use the quadratic formula, you're going to simplify the quadratic formula, and it will give you the form a plus minus b root 2. So the quadratic formula. So I'm actually going to use my I'm going to do this for memory, yeah. I'm going to write the quadratic formula by memory. Let's see if I get it correct. So it's going to be x is equal to minus b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a, okay? That is the quadratic formula. Cool. Once you've done that, we're going to substitute the values in. So this is going to be your a value, b value, your c value, substitute them in. So then it's going to be, we're going to have minus 4 plus minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4, and then a is going to be 4. This is going to be negative 1 divided by 2a is going to be 8. And then I'm going to simplify this. And when you simplify it, you are going to get I'm going to simplify this without using calculator. Remember, it's a non-calculator paper. No wonder it's a 5-mark question. They did this on purpose. They want you to simplify with the quadratic formula. And then when you simplify with the quadratic formula, you're gonna get something like this. It's gonna be minus 4 plus minus the root 32, square root of 32 over 8. And then it's gonna simplify even further to, if you want it to be like this, it's going to be minus a half plus minus a half root 2. That's gonna be your answer when it's simplified, okay? Plus minus a half root 2. So basically you would simplify this square root into a third with the base of 2. Then that's how you get your answer, okay? That is definitely worth 5 marks. That's a lot of marks. What can you tell the difference between cube root and square root? So basically, you should know that you have x cubed and we have x squared. The same way we have the square root of x and we have the cube root of x. What they mean is that this just means that we have to find the number. This is basically the opposite to each other, okay? That means that the cube root of x is going to be what the cube root is going to be the numbers that multiply each other 3 times to give us that number, okay? Yes, when you simplify this, it's going to be 4 root 2. 4 root 2, and then you divide by 8. So you do 4 divided by 8 is going to give you a half, and then minus 4 divided by 8 is going to give you a half as well. That's how you get your answer, okay? I didn't have space in my page, so I couldn't like really go through it. Can't you just do completing the square? To be honest, I don't think you can, because like we have a coefficient, and if you do use the completing the square method, you're gonna run into the problem. The problem is that both of them are positive, and then you can't really do it with completing the square. Okay, but you can try to do it. How do we know it's 4 root 2? Is because we know that the square root of 32, can be broken down into the square root of 16 times by the square root of 2. The square root of 16 is square root 4, and then that's gonna be the square root of 16 is 4, and then root 2, just like that. Okay, so let's move on to our next question. So we have Alfie has 11 cards. He has 3 blue cards, 7 green cards, and 1 white card. Alfie takes at random 2 of his cards. Work out the probability that it's going to take a different card. That he takes cards of different colors. Okay. So to work out I'm going to use like a quick method to do this. To work out the probability of 2 different cards, you don't have to do 1 minus the probability of two same. Okay? To work out for the 2 different cards, you have to do the probability of getting 2 same cards, okay? 2 same cards. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna work out the probability of getting 2 same cards, and each of them are gonna subtract it by 1. So the probability of getting a blue and a blue is going to be, the number of blues is 3. There are 3 blue cards, and then there are 11 cards in total, times by 2 over 10. Because if you take 1 blue card, there's going to be 1 less blue card, and it's going to be 1 less total. That's going to give you 6 over 110. and then you get the probability of 2 green cards. That's just going to be the probability of getting green cards 7 over 11 times by 6 over 10. That's going to give you 42 over 110. And then the probability of getting a white and a white, that's going to give you the 0, because if there's one white card, you cannot get 2 white cards if there's only one white card, okay? So then we're going to work out the probability of getting 2 cards of the same color. That means you would have to do 6 over 110 plus 42 over 110 plus 0 as well, which you don't have to do. It's going to give you 48 over 110. That is the probability of getting 2 cards of the same color. Yes, different colors is different colors. I did the same colors because, as I told you over here, to work out the probability of the 2 different colors, the easier method to save time you can do is that you can do 1 minus the probability of the same cards. To work out the probability of 2 different cards, you can do 1 minus the probability of the same cards. So then what you're going to do, the next step is going to be 1 minus 48 over 110. That's going to give you 62 over 110. And then that's going to be your answer. 62 over 110. That's going to be your answer. Well done for getting that correct. Let's move on to our next question. We have question number 21. So the diagram shows a sketch of parts of the curve with the equation y is equal to cos x. Y is equal to cos x. P is a minimum point on the curve. What it means by minimum, it means the lowest point. That is the lowest point on the curve. Write down the coordinates of P. You have to write the coordinates of P. Okay? So, the way you would do this is that you would know that this has to be 90, right? This would have to be 90. This would have to be 180. This would have to be 270. And that has to be 360. Okay? That is because y is equal to cos x. So it goes up in 90s. So you should know that y is equal to cos x. You should know that cos 90 is equal to 0. Cos 90 is equal to 0. You should know that cos 90 is equal to 0. And cos 180 is going to be negative. That's going to be minus 1 over here. So then the coordinate of P is going to be 180 and minus 1. It's a 2-mark question. There's no explaining to do over here. Just have to know that cos x, you have to work out the values. You would know that this one over here, this point will have to, we know that if x is equal to 0, if y is equal to 0, if you use your exact trig values, y is equal to 0, meaning that if we know that 0 is equal to cos x, okay? 0 is equal to cos x, meaning that to find the value of x, you need to know exact trig value, meaning that we know that cos 90 is equal to 0, right? Cos 90 is equal to 0, meaning that we can use our exact trig values to work out this is going to be minus 180, okay? That's how you do it, okay? Yes, the y-axis equals 0 on the line, okay? Now we're going to look at some sine rule. Sine rule. Let's see which one won. So it looks like I'm going to do paper 1 again. But I'm going to see about that. So anyways. So I have a triangle ABC. I'm going to have to work out this value of sine ABC. You have to work out the value of sine ABC. to this angle over here, you have to work out the sine of this. Give your answer in the form m over n, where m and n are integers. So to work this question out, what we need to do is that you're going to have to use your sine rule. You cannot use trigonometry on this because this is not a right angled triangle. You cannot, I'm going to repeat it again. You cannot use trigonometry again because this is not a triangle. I mean, a right angled triangle. You can only use trigonometry if it's a right angled triangle. If it is not a right angled triangle, you would either use the cosine rule or the sine rule. In this case, we're going to be using the sine rule because you need to work out the angle and you have two sides given. So you're going to be using the sine rule. There's going to be sine ABC. It's going to be sine ABC. So it's going to be sine ABC over 6.5. That's the opposite angle. Equaling to sine 30 degrees over 10.7. We have got that, right? Now, can someone tell me what is the value of sine 30? What is the value of sine 30? Let's see who knows the exact trig values. What is the value of sine 30 degrees? Sine 30, it is a half. We know that sine 30 is a half. So I'm going to say 0.5. I'm going to write that 0.5. It already have a fraction. That's going to write 0.5 there. So then, when we rearrange this, you're going to multiply by 6.5 on both sides to find the value of sine ABC. Then, to find the value of sine ABC, that we know that sine ABC is going to be equal to 0.5 over 10.7 times by 6.5. Now we have that. Now we're going to do, to make this more easier, we're going to make the numerator 1. So the numerator 1, we're going to times by 2. When you multiply by 2 to make the numerator 1, that's going to be 1 over 21 over 4. Times by 6.5. Now you can easily times by 6.5 to the numerator is going to be 6.5. That's going to be 6.5 over 21.4. And then we have to make sure that these two are integers. It says in the question where m and n are integers. So we're going to make them integers. So then if you want to make them integers, you multiply by 10 by the numerator and denominator, you're going to get 65 over 214. And that is going to be your answer. 65 over 214. That's going to be your answer. Well done, guys, for getting that correct. That's a 4-mark question. And guys, do not forget to follow. I do live every single day. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing the higher paper as well. So do not forget to watch my live tomorrow as well. So then, we have question number 23. We have to, here are the first 5 terms of a geometric sequence. We have to work out the next term of the sequence. Work out the next term of the sequence. So when we have a geometric sequence, that means we are multiplying. Geometric sequence means we are multiplying by the same number each time. So we need to work out which number we are multiplying by each time. That means we can see that we are multiplying. We are multiplying by 2 root 5 every single time. So 10 times 2 root 5 gives you 20 root 5. That means we're multiplying by 2 root 5. So to get the next term, you have to do 400 times by 2 root 5. So we're going to do 400 root 5 times by 2 root 5. We're going to do that. So when we have this, first of all, we're going to do 400 times 2. 400 times 2, we know that is 800. And then we're going to do root 5 times root 5. Root 5 times root 5, the roots cancel each other out. So we're going to be left with times by 5, okay? We're going to be left with times by 5. And then once you're done that, we're going to do 800 times by 5. That's going to give you 4,000. 4,000 is going to give you, and that's going to be your next term, 4,000. Okay? So then we have part B. Why do you multiply by 5? Is because that is the second part. Because you know that if you do root 5 times root 5, so we do root 5 times by root 5, these two roots cancel each other out, and then that means we're just left with a 5, okay? Root 5 times root 5, it makes you have a 5 left. That means you have to do 800 times by 5, okay? Then, part B, the fourth term of a different geometric sequence is 5 root 2 divided by 4. The sixth term of the sequence is 5 root 2 over 8. Given that the term of the sequence are all positives, work out the first term of the sequence. You must give all your working. This topic is called geometric sequences. Geometric sequences is the name of our topic. So to do this, what you're going to have to do, we're going to do 5 root 2 over 4. So we have 5 root 2 over 4. 5 root 2 over 4. Then you're timesing it by your what you're doing, the pattern. You're doing it twice. You're doing r squared, doing it twice the pattern. Then now you're going to get 5 root 2 over 8. So then we're going to work out what the value of r is. You're going to divide by that. But as you can see, you can simplify it first of all. So you know that you can cancel these out. So this will become 1, it's going to become 2. And then you have 5 root 2, 5 root 2, they're going to cancel each other out. They're going to be left with a half, so it's going to be 1, 1, a half. So it's going to be a root 2, r squared is going to be equal to a half. And we know that r is going to be the 1 over root 2. Okay? So then we know that our rule, that's what the r stands for. The rule is to multiply by 1 root 2, okay? Our rule is to multiply by 1 root 2, so that's the whole point of doing that equation, to work out our rule. So to work out the first term, what you would have to do, you have to do the fourth term, which is 5 root 2 divided by 4, divided by 1 root 2 to the power of 3. You want to go 3 spaces back and divide by 1 root 2 to the power of 3. So then we know that it's going to be simplifying it to, it's going to be 5 root 2 over 4 times by 2 root 2, which will then give you 5, and that is going to be your answer. Going to be integer. Well done, guys, for getting that correct. So let's move on to our next question. So we have question number 24. These two are similar. So we have a solid sphere. This is a 2-mark question. It shouldn't be that difficult. We have a solid sphere and a solid cone. The volume of the sphere is 4 root 3 pi r cubed. And then we have the volume of the cone, which is a third of pi r squared times the h, which is the height. All measurements are in centimeters. The volume of the sphere is equal to the volume of the cone. Find r to the ratio of h. R to h, to the radius to h. First thing we'll do, we're going to write this as an equation. So we have 5 root 3, then pi, then r cubed is equal to this formula over here. It's going to be a third, then pi r squared times the height. And now once you have done that, we know that we can cancel out our pi's. This r squared, this r over here, then we're left with 1 r. And then it's going to be 4. It's going to be 4. Remember, these cancel each other out. It's going to be 4r. 1 r left to 4r is equal to the height. And then when you write this as your ratio, we know that if we're going to write if r is equal to 1, if r is equal to 1, we know that h will be equal to 4, meaning that the ratio to r to h is going to be 1 to 4, and that is going to be your ratio 1 to 4. Okay? That's going to be a ratio. Super simple, 2 marks, done. And then lastly, we have question part B, which is now 4 marks, a bit more difficult. Last question. So then we have a different solid sphere and a different solid cone. Now they're different. They're both different. Now it says all measurements are in centimeters. The surface area of the sphere is equal to the total surface area of the cone. For find r, to use the ratio h, give your answer in the form 1 to n, where n is an integer. So we know that they are different. They are different. In this case, they are different, but they have the same surface area. So we can write it as a We can write it as an equation. So the surface area of our sphere is going to be 4 pi r squared. 4 pi r squared. Okay? Then which is equal to this is the curved area of the cone, that's going to be curved area front. It's going to be pi r times the slanted height. And then we have to add this area, the bottom area, the base area, is going to be pi r squared. Plus pi r squared. Simplify this, so we're going to, these pi's cancel each other out. So we have these pi's, cancel, cancel, and cancel. Then we are going to have 4 r squared is going to be r slanted height plus r squared. And then what we're going to do, we're going to be, what we're going to do now, we're going to be dividing by, let's say we're going to be taking out a r. So we're going to be, we're going to divide by r. When you divide by r, you're going to get 4r is equal to L plus r, okay? And then finally, you're going to minus r from both sides. We're going to get 3r is equal to L, which is the slanted height. Okay? That's going to be our slanted height. So then we know that this is the slanted height, but we need to work out the perpendicular height. Let's work out the perpendicular height. So to work out the perpendicular height, we're going to use our Pythagoras theorem, our infamous Pythagoras theorem, the pi r squared. So we know that our slanted height is going to be this slanted height over here. That's our slanted height. It's going to be a height, that's going to be our radius. That means it's going to be r squared plus the height squared is going to be L squared. That means L is going to be equal to the square root of r squared plus height squared, okay? That means that L, we're going to substitute the L with this. That means that we know that it's going to be 3r is equal to the square root of r squared plus h squared. And then we're going to cancel the square roots out. The opposite of square rooting, which is going to be to the power of 2, is going to be 3r squared is equal to r squared plus h squared. And then finally, what you're going to do now, you are going to quickly square it. It's going to be 9r. It's going to be 9r squared. It's going to be 9r squared. I forgot to multiply it by that. So 9r squared plus h squared. And then what we're going to do is that you're going to minus a r squared. So when you minus a r squared, it's going to be 8r squared is equal to the height squared. And then we're going to do, you're now going to do the square root. So the square root of the h. That means it's going to be the square root of 8r is equal to h. That means when r is equal to 1, means that h is equal to this root 8. Mean that's going to be the ratio 1 to 8. And that's going to be